Hello everyone, my name is Linda Perez and I am doing a presentation on the Learning Theory Constructivism. This theory is something that I want to do when I start teaching my own class. I do have some similarities to the way I want to teach according to the methods of constructivism. In this presentation, I am going to explain what constructivism is, and also list a couple of advocates that founded this constructivism, and also what the fundamentals beliefs are according to this theory. Also, I will be focusing on the similarities of why I want to go this route in doing the teaching in class. But to begin with, constructivism is in the Got Questions Ministry. It defines constructivism as is defined as a certain truth and those constructed truths interlock to build our understanding of all other things. This helps the student. It's about what they know, and when I teach the class, or when they teach the class, I want them to use their visual, their audio, their physical and verbal ways of listening. There's so many students that learn in different ways, and I just want them to utilize those ways of learning. And I feel that constructivism is a way that I can help those students promote those and use those learning skills. Also, we're going to go on to the next one is the fundamental beliefs of constructivism. As Doolittle had mentioned on his research of constructivism, he says, when knowledge is received, it is not passive. The individual or the student uses the knowledge actively. So we want our students to be more active in the learning. We want them to be able to relate to what the teacher is teaching them. So basically what he's saying is that when they receive that knowledge, there's two choices. Either they're going to be passive or they're going to be active. Passive is like, they don't really retain it. They may say, well, how is this pertain to me? But as of active, they're like, oh, how can I relate to this? What is it that the student already knows? And how can the teacher help them and guide them to learning those, to working their experiences into what they're learning in class? Also, another fundamental is the behavior is more viable when the information is cognitive. When the information is doable, is something that they've heard before, or they've done before, or they've seen somebody do, the behavior is different. Instead of having I really don't care, it's not something I want to do, or I don't understand, it's a more of a positive behavior because they would feel that, hey, I can relate to this. I can relate to what the teacher is teaching me. So that is, it improves behavior, especially when the student is relating to what the lesson or the lecture is. The student can also that behavior is more viable when the information is cognitive, is also by Doolittle. Also, another fundamental is the student can use it to relate to their experience. Like I was saying, they may have some experiences into what the lesson plan is. Also, in the lesson plan, they can also utilize their skills. I know that if some students are good at art, music, speech, children, they come with so many different skills, and if we ask the child to use their skills, they'll be able to build up that strength in their skills that they're strong in. And so that is also something that constructivism does. It'll help them build their strength in their skills. Also, social interaction, it's good too because it'll promote social interaction with other peers in their class. The student can maybe find another student that they relate or they have the same knowledge, or they can share the knowledge with each other. Okay, so those were the fundamental beliefs of constructivism. So now some of the advocates of constructivism. The first one is Jean Piaget. He's the founder of constructivism. He's a Swedish biologist, philosopher, and psychologist. He is his focus is on humans making means in relation to interaction between their experiences and their ideas. As we have been mentioning, the teacher is more focused on what the students' ideas have, like what is their big idea. So, and this will discuss what benefits we have to teaching this way. Another one is Lev Vygotsky. He is a Russian psychologist. Pretty much he was in Russia. We here in the United States didn't get to know him very much until the 1962. His theory is they should acquire their own truth about the world. And it's pretty much relatable to what we're speaking. We do want them to know about what's going on in the world, whether it's in science and math. Those are subjects that they're going to be needing in the world, so we can relate to those of how they can use it in the world. The math, if they become accountants, it's going to be pertinent to their career. They're going to need to know the math. Science, if they end up being astrologer, they can be chemical. They can do a deal with chemical. Is things how they can use those subject matters that they're going to be taught. It's something how they're going to relate to. Back to John Piaget, he quoted, "The principal goal of education in the schools should be creating men and women who are capable of doing new things, not simply repeating what other generations have done." And that's by Jean Piaget. He, as he was saying, creating men and women, starting with the children, to help them learn to be creative, to think of bigger ideas, new ideas. Pretty much technology is advancing very rapidly, so the students have a lot more accessible information, a lot more data that they can help them to become more knowledgeable and use these thoughts so they can come up with their own ideas. We want new ideas out there, new thinking, new ways to problem solve. So constructivism is something that the students can learn by using their own knowledge and understanding of what they know. Also, Lev Vygotsky, he quotes, "They should acquire their own truth about the world." It's true, because out there in the world, once they finish their college, their school, they're going to be out there, they're going to be exposed to the world, and the children need to be prepared so they can successfully confront the problems that will arise when they get out into the adult world. And so those were a couple of the advocates of constructivism. Next is going to be, how is this theory presented in class? The traditional way is it's teacher-centered. The teacher gets up there, talks about the lecture. Also, as opposed to the constructivism is the student-centered. It's more about what the student already knows and how to get them to think about new ideas and how they can relate to it in the world. And I believe my theory is that it makes it interesting for them. When you do this type of teaching, it shows that the teacher cares what they think and how they see things. And of course, if the teacher needs to guide them or correct them in some way, but she's still accepting how they think and what they think and why they think that way. So, and I think students really care about that their teacher cares about how they feel about the subject matter or the lesson. My personal theory, from my own experience, when I was growing up, I grew up in a more traditional teaching. The teacher was up there, she would share her lesson plan with me. Um, to be honest, I found it sometimes boring. Sometimes I found it like I don't relate to this. How is this going to be in my life? Um, it was, and it was like that throughout the whole school years. As I went back to college, it was total opposite. It was a more of a constructivism method teaching, because I was learning. All the subjects that I have had so far, I put in what my life experiences were, and I was able to compare that. And so I, and it's worked. Constructivism has worked because it makes it more personal, it makes it more interesting, and it also helps me to make changes if I need to. As opposed to traditional, I'm just accepting the opinion, the teachings of a teacher, and not being able to express my own thoughts or how I felt about the subject matter or the lesson. I prefer the student-centered versus teacher. I'm sorry. I prefer the student-centered versus the teacher-centered. I use that. I teach Sunday school, or I used to teach Sunday school, and I use the student-centered. When every time I would talk about a subject about the Lord, I always ask the student, how does it affect you? How is it in your life? If I talked about how the love that Jesus had for us, I I used it to relate to theirs. How their parents loved them, Jesus would loves them as well. So I would use experiences. If people were being mean to each other, it would be something that the students could relate, like bullying at school, or things that happened to them at home. I would use those experiences. Um, I believe that the constructivism has a lot of positive outcome. Um, Students can become critical thinkers, problem solvers, and they can achieve a lot. When they relate to the subject matter or the lesson plan, they can relate to what they're learning and how they can make a difference. So I think instead of just having one view, the teacher's view, I feel that the students can also, we can see their view, the students as well, and guide them to how they can use the subject matter that the teacher is trying to teach. Um, as I had read the scripture in the beginning, having faith on my works, I believe that this will work. Applying constructivism to the teaching, I believe that it'll work. I believe that a class can be very positive. I believe the student will know that we care of what they think and how they think that way. I believe that children can be successful using this method, and I believe there's many more outcomes, and I have faith in doing this type of work. I believe that the parents of the students will be able to see progress in the students when this type of method is used. So I just want to thank you again for hearing my thoughts on learning theory constructivism. Hopefully this will be helpful to you when you teach, and I believe that this is a victory for the students. I believe that they can overcome anything when they are problem solvers and critical thinking. I believe the students can be successful. So I want to apply this type of learning theory to my teaching. Thank you, and God bless.